We start today with one of the show's running gags.
Thanks for the lift.
That's all right.
Would you like a drink?
Straight scotch. I sure can't use one after all those stunts they had me do today. 3 crashes, 4 falls off a building, and a dive through a plate glass window. Which reminds me, how your driving lessons coming along?
I'm between instructors at the moment.
What happened to the guy that was teaching you how to drive?
He found something he liked better.
What's that?
Alcoholism.
It's been firmly established that Joyce doesn't know how to drive but really wants to learn. Needless to say, she's really bad at it.
Well, why didn't John give you lessons when you were married?
Oh, you tried? You know John. He gets so upset about little things. Just because I almost ran over his mother.
And when we get on that subject, we ride it into the ground.
Hi, Joyce. Hi, Hugo.
Hi, Mitzi. Will you join us?
No, thank you.
How's everything at the pet shop?
Cruelly. Boris is afraid of needles.
Oh, I'm really sorry to hear that. Poor Boris. Who's Boris?
A diabetic duck.
That's the excitement in Mitzi's life.
Hey, Mitzi. The TV guy's going to do a cover story on me.
Isn't that terrific?
And the network's going to put on a big publicity push, all for Joyce. She's going to be a big star.
That's nice. That should be really good for
Yeah.
you.
Why don't you have a toast with us, huh?
No, thank you. I don't feel like it.
Aren't you going to help us celebrate?
Joyce, I said I just don't feel like it.
A TV guide spread versus a diabetic duck. They can't figure out why Mitzi is in a mood all of a sudden. Gee, I wonder. At the studio, Doug has a message from the network. Get rid of the violence, the public doesn't like it. Since this is a show about cops and robbers, John would like to know how to do that without violence.
Look, for instance, the scene you're doing right now, look, instead of a stabbing, why not make it a beating?
Beatings are violent, too.
A mild beating.
Oh, that sounds exciting.
I suppose the real question Doug needs answered before he and Tracy go out again is she into getting one or giving one?
How mild?
Maybe they could just kind of slap a guy.
Let me see if I've got this straight. A community is living in terror because someone is stalking the streets after dark, slapping people.
I doubt that any one individual on the planet could come up with an idea that stupid. That had to require a committee.
Thanks again, Mitz.
Hugo? The reason I stopped in is to apologize for being so rude last night.
Oh, that's all right, Mitzi. Do you feel better today?
Well, maybe a little.
What's bugging you, Mitz?
They all adore Mitzi. She's as much a part of the group as any of them is, maybe even more than Tracy, because they all actually like Mitzi. But she's not feeling it lately.
Something's bothering me, but I can't figure it out. I just can't get excited about things lately. My life seems so empty.
Oh, how come you didn't tell me about that last night?
There are some things you just can't discuss with a man.
From start to finish, Mitzi got some of the best lines in the show, such as that one. As I said before, Georgia Engel made the show tolerable. Her storyline was the unusual one that you could build some great humor on. How many other shows have a diabetic duck named Boris and Georgia Engel to take care of him?
Miss Whitman, would you hold your chin just a little bit higher? Thank you.
The least he could do is tell you which one.
I feel funny taking pictures without a dress on.
Really? Tracy tells me there's nothing to it.
The turns of phrase are nice, but the jokes are old and they haven't aged well. Slut-shaming isn't an acceptable form of humor anymore, and rightly so. When I was in my teens, boys were basically told to go sow their wild oats, which is to say boff anything that moves, and if it doesn't move, boff it to find out why. Then after you've spread your seed far and wide, settle down and marry a virgin. In the immortal words of Dave Barry, I am not making this up. Girls, on the other hand, were supposed to remain chaste and pure and wait for the man of their dreams to give them a fulfilling life. The girls who put out were shamed, demeaned, called all kinds of rude names, and generally shunned by the good girls. But I had to wonder why. Why is it okay for a male to go play conquering Lothario while females can't? The age of birth control was just beginning, so I and a lot of other guys wondered why the girls weren't allowed to go have that kind of fun like the boys were. But that whole culture raises another question. If you've got hordes of guys and they're all running around on the make, and let's assume half of them are reasonably successful in spreading themselves around, where are the virgins supposed to come from? There aren't any because you guys have already deflowered all of them in your quest to prove your masculinity. Tracy's chosen to embrace the life that the boys get to enjoy and adopt it for herself. That's her prerogative and her right, and nobody else has the authority to tell her to do differently. There are lots of good reasons to dislike Tracy, but her sex life shouldn't be one of them.
Hi, Mitzi. Hi. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Mitzi.
What a day. We had an emergency at the pet shop.
You just missed the photographer from TV Guide.
It was a real crisis.
I sure hope that article gets people interested in the show.
Luckily, it turned out all right.
Well, we're going to need all the help we can get to schedule a couple of big John Wayne movies.
Okay, that's just rude, and it's getting to her.
Just a minute, everybody. That was very rude.
Well, I'm sorry, but he had it coming.
Mitzi was trying to tell us something about her job, and we ignored her. Nobody likes to be ignored. It's like a slap in the face.
What did you say? I wasn't listening.
My household probably does that joke 6 times a day, except we do it because it's old, trite, and dumb. We don't try to make a TV show out of it. When Mitzi comes back in, they all want to hear about the emergency.
Look, I know what you're all trying to do. You think there must be something interesting I could talk about. Well, there isn't. My life just isn't interesting, and I don't want to bore you with it.
Maybe after everybody else leaves, she can have a talk with Mitzi and see if they can sort this out.
I have to go out for a while, Joyce.
Oh, where?
To look for an apartment.
Or not. The next day, the cast can't even get started on a cold read before Doug is back calling for yet more script changes.
You can't be serious. This script hasn't a trace of violence.
That's the problem. We took a look at it and we feel we may have been a little hasty. I mean, we do have ratings to consider.
Are you saying you want the violence back in?
No, not violence. Action.
Gee, I'm not quite sure I know the difference between action and violence.
That's probably why you're so popular, dear.
I'm with Tracy. In a cop show, what's the difference?
It's very simple. See, action is what we do. Violence is what the other networks do.
Thanks for clearing that up.
I don't see how we're going to be able to put any violence...
Action!
Forgive me, any action into this week's script. It's the heartwarming story of how undercover woman finds a runaway child and reunites him with his parents.
Doug wants to find a way to get some violence, action into it anyway. John is tired of this.
What if the child packs a water pistol? Water pistol? Yes, and we can do a scene where the boy goes berserk, goes into a room, and wets his parents.
Liquid violence. I love it.
Oh, my God.
Do you ever get the feeling that Doug is a living example of the Peter principle? Mitzi appears and tells Joyce she's found an apartment. Joyce says, "We have to talk. Come talk to me while I change for the next scene." She says, "I think I know what's wrong. This job looks exciting and yours doesn't, but there's nothing glamorous about being an actress. Most of the time it's boring."
Everybody has this silly notion that people in show business lead glamorous lives. Nothing could be further from the truth. It's humdrum. Believe me, honey, there is nothing glamorous about my life. You see, there really isn't much difference between us.
No, not much difference.
Hugo comes in dressed the same way, and Mitzi runs out crying.
Oh, no.
Miss Whitman?
She's right over there.
Well, he is her double. Don't just stand there, dude. Make with the camera. Joyce doesn't even take the time to change. She appears at the pet shop in that getup and insists on talking to Mitzi.
Joyce, really, I don't want to talk about it. Besides, I can't anyway. The boss doesn't like friends coming in during working hours. It's a rule.
Mitzi, you're not going to get rid of me.
Well, okay, if you want to hang around, try to look like a customer. Take a number.
I'm the only one here.
Sorry, rules are rules.
They're both relentless. Joyce won't leave until they talk, and Mitzi will try to do anything but.
All right, Mitzi. Now stop beating around the bush. I want to know why you're moving out, and I want it straight.
All right, if you must know, I'm moving out because I'm not worthy of your friendship.
Not worth? What are you talking about? You're the sweetest, kindest, most generous person I've ever known.
It's all a front. Underneath, I'm a jealous louse, and I'm so ashamed.
It's not the jealousy that's driving her away. It's the fact that she hates herself for being jealous instead of being happy for her best friend.
Do you remember about a year ago when I was down in the dumps? Couldn't get a job, couldn't even get a date. But you had a job. You went out with a different guy every night. Every time the phone rang, it was for you. Mitzi, I hated your guts.
You're just saying that to make me feel better.
Whatever you're feeling, whoever you are, guess what? You're not alone. There are lots of other people who feel the same things you do. If you reach out instead of hiding it like Mitzi was doing, it's amazing what you can discover and how easily you can learn that you're not a rotten people after all. We end with another extended cliche about Joyce's driving, and that's that. Why didn't we end with something that had more to do with Mitzi since she was the focus of the episode? I have no idea. My hunch is we went for the low-hanging fruit again. We're halfway through the show's run and we still barely know these people. Instead of the easy driving gags, give me more insight into Mitzi and how she's dealing with all of Joyce's success now. Better yet, put her back in the pet shop and have her tell us how Boris is doing. What? I have a soft spot for ducks who are afraid of needles. She's as much of the part of the... See, she's as much of the part of... Come on! Why didn't we end with something that had more to do with... That was terrible. Okay, do it again.